Hi, welcome to the She Moves Mountains podcast. This is your host, Kamala Murphy. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about some of the juicy stuff we women experience that makes this life journey truly amazing. You know, the nitty-gritty, the love, the loss, the falling down and rising up, the getting lost and finding our way again. To our hearts, our happiness, and to the awareness that we can and do move mountains. Thank you for joining. Hi, this is Kamala. Welcome to this episode of the She Moves Mountains podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You know, the last couple of weeks, several weeks, I have been feeling so angry enough that I just felt like I couldn't stand being in my own skin. And part of it, I know, has to do with being an empath and feeling a lot of the feelings of other people who are experiencing a variety of feelings out in the world, from anger to fear, frustration, the whole gamut. But I also know that part of my anger and frustration is my own stuff, that I expect life to be going a certain way, and it's not. I'm looking at the fact that I really do expect things to go relatively smoothly for me. And I have this faith when everything is going well. But when things are messy and not to my liking, I start to doubt what God is doing. Things are not supposed to be this way. And definitely a spiritual woman who talks a lot about God and faith and trust, being angry and angry at God, sets up this real internal struggle. And I'm definitely thinking it's for sure not supposed to be like this. I'm not supposed to be like this. And as I say that, this wave of, well, isn't that exactly what a fairly privileged white woman might think? That life is supposed to go her way. So it's just adding to the discomfort. So I'm miserable and rolling around in this discomfort, and I'm railing at God and pissed about everything, including, I dropped a spoon down the disposal and it wasn't even running, but I was so angry. I was like, nah, 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 nah. All about a stupid spoon falling someplace where it wasn't supposed to. Ugh. So I'm having temper tantrums every day. I'm railing at everything. I'm pissed off. So how is God or the universe going to get through to me? One of my theories in my life is that if I hear something unique 3 times in a relatively short period of time, I pay attention because I figure that's God using other people or writing or some other way to get through to me. And that's just what happened. In the last week, I have heard variations of, you're right where you're supposed to be, either for myself or for other people. So I'm hearing this message, we are all right where we're supposed to be. And that's so uncomfortable. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be feeling so riled up. And I'm reminded of being a little kid, like 4 or 5, and our neighbor had a redwood deck that we weren't supposed to run on in bare feet. Well, I always did. And invariably, I would get splinters. And this one time, I got a splinter, and it was a pretty large one, and I couldn't get it out myself. So my father got a needle and was going to have to dig in a little bit in order to get it out. And I remember flailing against him. No, I don't want the needle. It's going to hurt. So I'm fighting him while he's trying to do something that will help me in the long run. And I feel a little bit like that, like I'm ranting and raving and sometimes cursing at God that this is not how it's supposed to be, when all that's happening is really for my own good. It's a little bit like we're the caterpillars that have crawled into the cocoon, and we're no longer caterpillars. We've transformed into mush and goo, and we have none of the structure that we had in the past. And we're not where we're going to be either. So this part of life, this time of life, is really unsettling and uncomfortable. And if we're angry, I think that's probably really normal. If we're afraid, if we're frustrated, I think this is just how it is. And can we accept where we are? Can we accept being in the frustration and the anger and the uncertainty, even if it's not what we like, not what we want, even if life is supposed to be different? Can we learn to trust that we're right where we're supposed to be for the moment? As much as I wish it were not so, life has taught me that I can't move my mountains or even make progress if I'm trying to find my way with a completely wrong map or fighting a battle that I cannot win. When I want things to be other than they are, well, it's just a losing battle. And I know that I've shared the serenity prayer a number of times, but it's so helpful in these times. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because there are things I cannot change, and I'm in the goo right now. But if I stop struggling, maybe the next steps will be clearer, and I'll have the courage to take those. There's a longer version of the serenity prayer that includes a part, and I am paraphrasing this. If we living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship like we're going through as the pathway to peace. And here's the part I love: taking this world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that all things will be made right as I surrender to God's will. And I read that and it's like, yeah, life, I'm not in charge of this life. I'm not in charge of what happens in this world. And if I'm demanding or fussing about it not being my way, I am not going to make any progress at all. And I'm not going to help a single soul. No one will be served. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you are someone who wants to make a difference, wants to serve people, wants to make the world a better place. And you may be feeling anger and frustration. So I invite you to take some deep breaths and really check in. Is it possible that you are right where you're supposed to be, even if it doesn't feel like it? That there are lessons to learn or pieces of the puzzle to pick up, some soul searching to be done, some resistance to be surrendered, and maybe even some grace and mercy and love to be received, especially in these tough times. Sometimes the idea of surrender and accepting things as they are can be so challenging. But if we can lay things down bit by bit, surrender bit by bit, and just relax into being held, knowing that there is a greater good that's going to come out of this mess. There is a butterfly at the end of the cocoon stage. So just breathe that in. Just take a nice deep breath and let the sigh out and just relax. as challenging as these times are, we'll make it through and hopefully be better people, more compassionate, more understanding, more connected people. I'll put this longer serenity prayer in the show notes. I'll also have a link to connect with me if you are struggling with something and do feel like you want just someone to talk to for 15 minutes, just to find a way to let go of the struggles that you might be experiencing. So thank you for listening to this episode. I know it's a little bit ranty, but I think a lot of us are a little ranty right now, and we're all in it together at some level. So that is it for today. Again, thanks for listening. Until next time, love and blessings. Take care. Bye for now. You've been listening to the She Moves Mountains podcast, coming to you every week. If you're a woman who wants to move mountains in your own life, please make sure to subscribe or follow this podcast. And if you've laughed or gotten teary or smiled knowingly, thinking, oh yeah, that's me too, please go ahead and rate the episode with 5 stars. It'll be a feel-good thing to do. Thanks a bunch. Lots of love and blessings to you. This is Kamala signing off. Until next week. Take care.